aufmerksam machen, die hier in dieser Ausstellung, also an diesem Ort, einen hochinteressanten Vortrag zum Thema afroamerikanische Kunst von den Anfängen in den 68ern bis zur Gegenwart halten wird. Hier ist der Eintritt frei, denke ich. Ja. Let's celebrate our partnership. Let's celebrate peace, friendship and brotherhood. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Gina. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Schurger said in his speech that you're going to tell us everything about your art. Now, I'm sure you would like to tell us everything about your art, but having spent a whole evening with you talking about your art and only learning just this much about it, I think we'll spend 10 to 15 minutes, if you would give us this time, to talk about your art. Gina, I don't know if everybody knows, but you are the only artist authorized officially by the King family to work with the materials that they provided you with, photographs, letters, other artifacts. Could you please tell us how this came about?
First, let me just say thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Nuremberg, Sean Atkins, Norbit, Christina, wherever Kathleen is, for about a year and some time now. We've been, there you go, Margaret, they opened up their homes. But for some time now, before I talk about myself, I think it's really appropriate to just say, what a big thanks. Just a big thanks. This all kind of, what was the question?
So is this, yeah.
That's the artist Chaney.
The artist Chaney.
The real artist.
Gina, tell us how you got involved with the King family and how you got involved with this project.
Okay. This is kind of a twofold question. How I got involved with the King family maybe 20, 21 years back. But part two to this endeavor came to pass upon, I guess, the eve of the 25th anniversary for the King holiday to be celebrated. If you take a look at the art, you're going to find a 25, and that represents the 25th year that the King holiday came into existence. Dr. Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta, campaigned heavily to have this as a national holiday in the United States. She's quite a legacy unto her own. We thought about doing something different, and at my suggestion, I said, why don't we do something different? Why don't we take these images and do something different besides just have black and white images in a book? And so my thoughts were they were receptive. And so that's how this art kind of came to pass.
Gina, my second question is also thinking about what you told me on Saturday evening, how you put your art together. I mean, these are not the originals, right? The originals are on wood, if I remember correctly. Could you tell us something about how you actually put this on wood and how people react to it? You told me something very interesting.
I'm in my house, I've got all these images, but the way the images came into my hands, one, we all know there are a lot of public images, but Bernice gave me an opportunity to come into her home, and I've been in there a million times, but this neat thing was, she said, Gina, I want you to go through all Mom's photos. Here's our albums, and since Coretta's passed, a lot of that stuff had been inventoried. Bernice is in charge of her mom's stuff. Make a long story short, going through these albums, a lot of them hadn't been opened in a long time, and I could tell. And because I wasn't around, I was a kid when this movement really was taking place, it wasn't until I started going through the photo albums that I realized just how big this was. I mean, it's one thing to read in a textbook about what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did and what he stood for and all his other cohorts, all his associates. The work they did didn't really hit me. To answer that question, how this work really came, one, I'm really an abstract painter, and if you take a good look at the work, I'm pretty good at throwing paint on the wall. When I was a kid, I did draw. I love drawing people, but that was a long time ago. I worked so hard, that's boring. Going through those albums, though, we now actually are archiving a lot of that work and bringing a lot of that work to another level, because I found a lot of images that we really haven't ever seen. A couple of things, when you look at the work, I want you to see, you'll find original signatures from the children, notes, memorabilia. I don't know what's over here, but you're going to find some letters, handwritten letters, notes to Coretta, just a lot of very personal things. A large objective of mine was to make this family human, because one thing to have a legacy, another thing to know just regular, ordinary people. So to make this work, I had, by now, maybe about 1,000 images. I had about 1,000 images. And so a lot of people think this stuff is really easy. I know there's another artist in here. None of this stuff is easy. Not even throwing paint. It's not easy. There ain't nothing easy about it. Just good old Southern hospitality. But so organizing my images came first, getting all the paints, getting an idea about what we want to say, and I paint to music. My biggest inspiration is I can't paint without music. It's just not gonna happen. Okay? So when you look at a lot of this, this is called Something Told Me It Was Over. In Atlanta, we also call this We the People. The children actually named it We the People. And I'll tell you about Something Told Me It Was Over. This is called Love Will See Us Through. This is Martin's funeral. And it also says Don't Cry. That's 77 times 70, which is a personal story. I'll tell you quickly. I got 10 minutes. I'm about 5 into 8, 9, knowing me. So, okay, long story short, guys. Love Will See Us Through. Etta James, any Etta James fans, I was listening to her. And fortunately, for every painting I was really doing, one, you throw all this paint on the floor. You've got to have this stuff happening quickly. You got to be moving fast to make this stuff happen, because I'm not gluing these images down. I'm not using glue, so I've got a whole bunch of paint, whole bunch of big pieces of wood, and I'm in there in my own little world, just doing my thing. And you've got to have a story. So I spent a lot of time in the Black archives as well. When you go through this, you're going to find newspaper headings that match the era. So a lot of time went into that. If you look at the Civil Rights Bill right there, you're going to be able to look at that newspaper and you're going to be able to identify that's actually from that specific period. You're going to be able to see the actual dates of those newspapers. It's not just ordinary newspapers. You're going to see food that costs 5 cents, a steak or a chicken for 50 cents. That's impossible these days. Okay? So you're going to get to see that. A lot of time went into it. So making this story match up with this was hard. So a lot of love, a lot of passion. And that's proprietary, I think, anyway. But it's kind of a cool process. I learned, instead of using glue, how to make the images one with the wood. And that's it for the technique part. But my brother, Ronnie, he's a guitar player. And my real primary motivation for picking up my paintbrushes again, my brother checked out and left us maybe about 10 years ago. He's a fabulous guitar player, left-handed. An amazing guy. In fact, most of the work I do, everything just about has been just seriously influenced by him.